Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and we're doing a no run-through review for Joan of Arc. Time of Legends, Joan of Arc.
Yeah, with we have a couple of the expansions, like the Apocalypse.
We have everything.
We have everything.
Everything.
Well, isn't there like a whole other half of it, or is that not?
That was it was an update because Mythic Games loves to release games before they're finished. So erratas, like their rulebooks, are always fucked on release. But no, there was like a 1.5.
Okay.
This game came out a while ago, and the reason why we're doing a no run-through review is because kind of the same reason that I did for Twilight Imperium. I just don't much care for uploading 6-hour videos anymore, because I don't like doing parts. And so we decided to do the Armageddon one, which is insane. It is easily their biggest battle, good versus evil. And it's a skirmish game. Open world, or not open world, open map, dudes on the map, moving them to fight. Skirmish game, which, if you're a fan of the channel, you know I tend to not like. I don't hate this game, but to be very blunt, this game is a fucking mess. Like, of a skirmish game.
Yeah.
And everything that I do have a problem is just accentuated because of how clunky and how, like, unclear everything is, and how much of a setup everything is, that it definitely overshadows the things that I do like. So, I don't know how you feel. We'll let you start. This is your game. So we will. Yeah. What do you think of Joan of Arc?
What do I think? I have very limited experience in like full blown war games. It's just anything I've played with you. I've looked into Warhammer just because I'm like, miniatures, miniatures. Give them to me.
Give it to me.
I want more. Give me more.
Hammer my war.
Hammer my war. But I mean, from what I've seen of like Warhammer and other war games, I mean, it definitely feels like a war game.
Yeah.
I mean, you activate the units. I do like the area activation rather than the individual unit, which is just tedious.
Right.
Moving them all very specifically. I mean, at least we don't have to take a fucking tape measure.
Oh, God, that is true. That is true.
So we go by hexes.
They do very much streamline combat.
Yeah. But I mean,
which is both a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, we went whole hog. We did their biggest fucking their biggest structured fight that they'd created.
Right.
I mean, that I believe is in the book, and that is the Apocalypse.
Oh, Apocalypse. Why is that Armageddon?
I said Armageddon. I just like to say
it's the Apocalypse expansion.
Is called Apocalypse, but the fight is called Armageddon.
Yes.
So we did their biggest thing. So it may have been a little overwhelming for us neophytes here in this kind of game.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is definitely messy. A lot of units, a lot of unit cards, a lot of rules to take into account.
Yeah, a lot of keywords.
Definitely, like, you want to play this several times before jumping into something so big.
Sure.
It's definitely a lot, almost, bit off a little more we can chew there.
Right.
Because it's like, oh yeah, you got a lot, 6 hours for this bitch.
Yeah, but it's also, it's keywords, and I'm not holding that against him at all. What the biggest thing about the clunkiness is, and I like it initially, but in practice it sucks ass. Having the 2 and 3 peg holders is so fucking messy. It's so stupid. It should have just been a mold. It should have been one unit. Have a little unit, and this, you don't need this to represent, 3 people.
A unit, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be there. One, because each section, based off how many areas there are, they can hold a certain number. But these circle bases can't hold that amount. This can't hold 6 unless you're really scrunching it in, and then it just makes the board look busy. The other problem is because you have 3 in each section, you can't easily identify you cannot. What units they are. So to be streamlined, which they try to do in some areas, they really mess up in others. Because it's like, okay, I'm attacking that area. Oh, okay, so
yeah, which units do I have in this area?
That's that.
This card.
They have they get, and because the best thing about combat is that Attacker just takes all their dice and roll them, and then apply their effects. Defender does the same. All their defense dice, roll them, apply their effects. And then any disrupts or kills that are left over, they get applied according to the defender. That's all fine. But then whenever it's like, okay, I'm attacking this area. Okay, so that has my plague bearers. They have support. They have terror too. Oh fuck, I forgot the terror. Like, it's so bad.
Yeah.
When you could have easily just had one unit to represent plague bearers. Like, if I get 4 plague bearers, I have 4 units, not 3 things or 4 things of 3. You know. And if you want to be like because Warhammer is like, if I think they actually do have like infantry on like one base, but it's molded. Like, so you don't have to piece every single one of these tiny things.
I mean, it's like they have individual. They have them in like squads. Yeah. I don't know the intricacies, please. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I'm
sorry. I've just watched a few videos. I'm sorry. It's like I was enjoying. I'm a semi fan. I'm kind of like a fanboy, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't actually own any of the stuff. I like to look at the miniatures and how well they're painted.
Well, yeah.
But anyway, I
you have to paint them if you want to play.
Yes, you do. But they have them in like squads essentially. But like each one looks unique.
Right.
But it's like a 6-man squad,
right.
and you move them as a group.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're like on like a rectangle base, and so you just be like, oh, move in this one. But also because you don't have that many, like the tape measure isn't that big of a hassle to be like, oh, he can move this much, and then boom. I know they have the, what was it, Warhammer Kill Shot or Kill Squad or whatever.
Yeah, Kill Team. Yeah.
Kill Team. It was supposed to be like a condensed, streamlined version of Warhammer. Anyway, that makes setup insane. And not only that, the scenarios, they have, it's quantity over quality. Like, we know for a fact not every scenario is great, and they have to rework a bunch of scenarios to make it work. If your scenario says 3 or 4, it's wrong. This is a 2-player game.
Yeah.
Especially 3. 3's awful.
That was like, I think it's like the only scenario that lists 3. It's one of the few.
I think there's like 1 or 2. Yeah, and it was like the Tarrasque, and like it was awful. And I was like, oh, this will be cool. It was not. It was not cool. So with skirmish games, I've found one that I have genuinely enjoyed, and it was Mythic Battles, which I'll eventually get. But my problem with skirmish games like this is you spend so much time on your turn, especially in this game and in this particular scenario, doing stuff, deciding which units to activate, trying to strategize, utilizing your cubes. This is the best part of the game, by the way, the cubes, which we'll talk about. And so you do all that just to position, and then you roll dice, and you miss. And you're like, I wasted 30 minutes to fail every single time. And it's not that there's not mitigation. There's keywords and stuff that let you re-roll. But also the worst part, especially depending on certain scenarios, in this one in particular, it was I had to kill very specific units of yours, and you just had to hold out, which isn't a horrible victory condition on either side.
Okay.
I never felt it was going to be like one side was winning over the other. It felt very thematic, the holy side. I mean, it makes sense. The holy side would do well against the evil side because it's, angels versus demons. But in practice, for me, it was kind of like, okay, I got to do this. I just need to kill one of your units. It's round 3. I need to fucking just kill one. Okay. Oh, you interrupted and ran off. Okay. Or I'm gonna try and shoot. Okay. I rolled my dice. 2 hits. Oh, you got defense. Okay. All right. I guess I get to do nothing.
Yeah.
And that's just not fun for me. I don't know. What do you think of the combat?
You said you're getting to the cube system, but I do enjoy their cube system.
Yeah.
I mean, in a big battle like this, you're trying to figure out all the fucking shit. I mean, just all the different guys look very similar.
Yeah, they do.
So, I mean, I was a little frustrated on my part because all my guys look very similar, and trying to identify each one individually. I mean, if that was a little more streamlined, and they maybe made some of this a little more obvious.
Yeah. Because it doesn't need to be bigger, like the tiles or anything. The units just don't need to be individual 3 pieces.
Right. But otherwise, like the dice, I mean, if I could streamline that somehow, I mean, and unique abilities, there's only so many, since you can only handle so many in a different area.
Yeah.
It gets a little more complicated when you're activating, command characters.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so they're activated, and now this many people around them can activate, and then you just have a big old swarm. So it's just confusing, but you have to keep track of all of that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. It adds a little bit of extra depth and makes your commanding characters a little much more commanding. It's like, oh, yes, the boss who you want to move, who you want to engage with, carries along the little schlubs, your infantry units.
Yeah.
They're coming with him.
Yeah.
And that's great. I like that mechanic. It's just there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
But it's a war game. But I do enjoy the combat. I'm not as peeved with the dice. But I definitely see where you're coming from.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it definitely... And, it's not that we were rolling bad. You had some bad rolls, I had some bad rolls, you had good rolls, I had good rolls. I mean, it washed out. But in a long game, that's essentially what it always boils down to. It's like, I can position myself great. In fact, you could always roll defense and then always never get shields. Yeah. And then your units start dying.
I mean, you have to kind of go with the flow of the dice.
Yeah.
I mean, these games, because it's definitely in the early game when you came with the Beast, I mean, you wiped a whole fucking hex in one go.
Right.
And then, this last few rounds, Mike, you couldn't touch my Griffin.
Yeah.
He is rolling shields like a beast. I was rolling shields all over the place.
Right.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
But that's, when you're chucking dice, they back and forth.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I understand.
Yeah, and with skirmish games, the ones that I have liked the most, it comes down to strategy. Okay, is my strategy better than your strategy, or your strategy better than mine? And we'll see which one comes out better. That's why I like a lot of Euro games and stuff like that. Instead of being like, well, your dice rolled better. That was 6 hours of nothing. So that's one of the biggest, because we, each combat, it's like, even then, my beast is still alive, or was still alive, and it's like, I could have technically just keep trying to, push you out, and then just keep following you, just to get your angels out of the way. But it's also kind of like, well, that's using up all my cubes, so I really want to do that. Which brings me to the cube system. Easily the best part. This is unique. I haven't seen this in any game. I like this. I like that what you're able to do is based off of the cubes that come out, and mostly everyone is equal. There's no, there's a few ways that you can get extra cubes, but it's not like, oh man, I have all my gray cubes and you only have 2. You know?
You can only carry over 3. So if you did have a conservative turn, you could have a big slam-dang turn, but not that big.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the most you could get is 7. 7. Because there's one with 4. If that came out and you carried over 3, you could be like, oh man, I'm going to get to activate 7 units plus whatever extras I get and do one big massive turn. Which is not nothing. I very much like that strategy. The problem that I also think that happened in this scenario... Actually, well, what do you think of the cube system?
Cube system? Oh, I mean, I'm a fan of it.
Yeah.
It felt really streamlined.
Yeah.
Short of trying to identify your units, which is kind of a pain.
Right.
And then the awkwardness of the 6 don't really fit there.
Yeah.
But you can put 6 there.
I almost would have liked it. So you haven't played Twilight Imperium, and it's not just that one, but a lot of other games. They do it to where you activate an area and all adjacent units can move to that area. I much prefer that over picking an area and they move from that. Just because I feel like you get more bang for your buck than just being like, okay, well, because that's why all these units I had in the back, I never wanted to move them because they were always so far away. And I'm like, well, that's a waste of a cube. It's going to be a while before they even get involved.
Okay.
But if, for example, we did areas and it's like, I want to do this one. I want to activate that area. And then I can move them in, I can move them in, I can move them in. That's my preferred method. Granted, in those scenarios, usually units in an affected area can't be moved out. So if that was the case, then they'd move in. And unless effects got me to remove the token, then they could be activated again.
Yeah.
But then you have these. So.
I think that they're what they tried to do to have a similar effect are these command guys that can draw in essentially when they activate. You can draw in 3 dudes.
True.
Come with him.
Yeah. Because the command, you pick them and then they can you activate those away. So like Conquest, he can do 3 areas away into. And yeah, that is true. So it does bring these scrubs out quite a little bit more. But then it just kind of becomes all congested in one area. And it's like, and they definitely don't give you enough bases to put on.
They did not.
To be like, so they don't accommodate for each scenario. Because it's like, I mean, at that case, it would have been a little bit better to have like, okay, battle, no man's zone or no man's land in the middle, and we have our forces come up. Mm. And there are people in the sky. The game is very thematic. It's very cool whenever you can get things going.
Oh, God.
Like, yeah, that giant beast is, of course, attacking all. Like, all those angels.
Christ. He's a mean boy.
Yeah. And then he eventually just gets... And then you brought up all your angels into the sky. We had our cockatrice and griffin, like, dogfighting. My horsemen were coming in. Yeah, it's really cool, but... I don't know. I just don't want to play a dice chucker for 4 to 6 hours. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's I mean, I'm trying to think. Like, pretty much, like that's pretty much it. Mm-hmm. There is a lot of stuff in here. I just don't think that they streamlined it. Funny enough, I hear no one talking about this game anymore.
Yeah,
that could just be because. Everyone's sold it off.
Everyone's making war games these days.
Everyone's making war games. Everyone's trying to make these skirmish games a lot more streamlined. Mm-hmm. If I want to do a war game, I'm definitely going to play... I mean, TI is a 4X game, not a game like this, but there is fighting in it. I'd rather play that. I'd rather do Rising Sun or Blood Rage, those streamlined conquest negotiation games, versus a head-to-head. And if I want to do a head-to-head, I'd rather it be fair. Mm-hmm. Not the dice. I mean, dice are unfair for really both sides, but it's potential that it can't be.
Yeah.
One of us could just always roll hits. Mm-hmm. But it does also include the disrupt, which is like units are wounded, and they go in there, and then you roll in the camp phase where they potentially...
Where we have smaller armies, it feels less like, oh, I'm so fucked. I mean, I know this one changed quite a few things. So it's like a disrupt is a kill.
Yeah.
And you don't hold them over. Normally they might come back later, or they might die, or they might just sit there for a while.
Yeah.
But in this game, it was just instant death if you fuck up and you don't have the shields for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I mean, don't get me wrong, this scenario wasn't bad. Yeah, I think if it wasn't, like, midnight, like, we wouldn't have been like, oh, all right. I mean, because, he would have died. I would have basically burnt this whole turn to keep activating him to try and at least get a few of your angels dead. Mm-hmm. But then you would have, of course, killed him. But then I had this guy, the Leviathan. God, this is he was basically going to start, and start running that way.
I knew it was coming.
Yeah, and he ignores push, and he has 2 damage, and he rolls 4 white and an automatic push.
Oh, cool.
And then what's his ability?
Versus this one rolled 3 red, right?
Yeah.
Or his gigantic dice. Either of them can roll.
Yeah, either of them can roll the gigantic die. Each time the Leviathan attacks on an area containing a terrain element, it gets destroyed. Each time the Leviathan performs a gigantic attack, I can spend 1 Destiny token to reroll up to 3 purple. And units disrupted by the Leviathan are put on its board instead of in the infirmary, so that doesn't matter. So yeah, that... And he only costs 1 to activate with 16 health. And they have the night and day phase. So for the first 4 rounds, you essentially had no range.
Yeah.
And then in the last 4, I had no range. But I mean, essentially that didn't affect me at all. Like, because I had
all of them here in the turtle.
Right. So that I don't know how much that would have come into play. You probably would have shot my horses down. Because they don't really, there's no... I don't know how I feel, though, about, like, all defense, especially with the gigantic creatures. Because it's like you swarm them, and it's like, okay, I'd much rather have more dice to roll than just a static 2.
Yeah.
Because, like, because I know they have a lot of health, and every other hero has, like, 3 or 4. But, like, your Judgment, I think it was your Judgment, he had 12 health and got...
2 black.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind. That essentially equates out to the same. But But then again, these guys can't be defended. Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh, okay, well, I rolled shitty on my attack. Oh, okay, I got one attack, you got one or two attack, you got one defense. Oh, put on this little scrub guy. It's like, oh god, I just have to trudge through your fucking weak people.
Yeah.
And
the meat shield.
Yep, the meat shields, and you just had to wait it out.
Yep. Definitely made me play like more reactive versus.
Yeah.
So it's just like, okay, turn up, don't die.
Right.
Defeat the threats that are immediately at our doorstep and hold out.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it feels balanced. I mean, even, like, all of them have cool abilities. The Antichrist, I could have spent a Destiny to designate an adjacent enemy troop and roll a black. If it's a shield, then if it comes under my control.
Nice.
So he just starts turning people. And I was trying to get him in there, but he only has 3 health. Because Immortal does nothing in this scenario. Because it doesn't go into the disrupted area. So he was essentially a 3 healther. Mm. The one thing about the scenario that I really didn't like, though, is because you have so many meat shields and so many ways for me to not kill your people with art which already have health on their own, was the fact that you got reinforcements. Mm. That was kind of the first thing where I was like, all right, I'm kind of done with that. It took me 3 rounds to kill one fucking person, and then, oh hey, more units. It's like, I don't get more units. Like, half of my fucking people are over here doing nothing. So, not a bad skirmish game. Mm-hmm. I just never want to play it again.
That's fair.
So, do you have anything? Anything else you want to add?
Oh.
Anything cool about Joan of Arc?
Joan of Arc. I mean, I don't hate it.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's definitely, I mean, it's the one war game I own. I'm like, oh, cool. If I want to do a war game, I can do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, good luck, Devin, getting anyone else into this. But no, it's not terrible.
Yeah.
I like the feel. I like certain streamlined elements. But yeah, I'm not a super huge fan of the miniatures because the setup was abysmal.
Yeah. What do you think about, do you like the fact that it's mystical? Like, it's about legend, so there are these beasts. It's not like real, like, historically accurate medieval.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I like this one. That was, mystical. I mean, and then they have optional scenarios that are, real world.
More grounded.
French and English. Mm-hmm. I think they had a few others. I think they're releasing a few others, but...
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the multiple aspects, as you can approach it either way. It's like, okay, more grounded, let's just, move troops and fight and defend traditionally. Or it's like, I'm going to throw a giant flying 5-headed beast at you.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty much what I did. Mm-hmm. I mean, he lasted. I mean, he's almost...
He's a great disruptor. I mean,
pretty much.
When I have a giant defensive line with a bunch of small troops, that's who you send.
Yeah. It's, what was I going to say? Yeah, I forgot.
Should put him out here and then stress me out and then approach with that guy and then have me in a bottle and then have me like 2-pronged.
Well, that was the problem is like this guy, because like they can't push people out of the way to move and he can't jump or anything. Like it was, I mean, basically my placement of him, but yeah, he
just had a hard time moving.
Yep, he would have eventually kind of gotten there. The only reason he got in so quick was because I was able to fly into the sky and then land.
Flight's pretty amazing.
Yeah. I mean, that's essentially what I would have done. Because there would have been way more rounds to have him come in and basically have the 4 horsemen. Because I mean, the death, I could just, whenever I activate him, I could spend an XP to heal.
Nice.
So I could have kept him kind of going, reactivate death over and over and over.
This horse is upside down.
Yeah,
that's so fucking weird.
The big minis are badass.
Yeah,
they are so cool. And this is definitely a lot better than like Hate. Hate was awful.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. So I mean, it's like I could have kept reactivating death and just keep healing the beast over and over. But I will say one thing about the cubes is I like the system a lot, but I also at the same time don't like how it's determined by the cards. Like, I would have much rather had a static amount of cubes versus, like, we get... Yeah, because then it becomes very, I don't know, lame. Because you have all these units and you want to fight and you want to use them, but then it's like, Okay, what do we get this round? It's okay, 3. That's not bad. Then 2, then 3, and then okay, 3. But it's like whenever the 2 rounds come, it's like okay.
Yeah.
I guess we'll just do nothing. And maybe it was just more accentuated in a bigger battle with so many units because you can't activate them all. Mm-hmm. So I feel like just a condensed, streamlined game, which this is not it at all. So yeah, kind of a letdown. It's not horrible. I definitely can see if people were like, "Oh, I love this game," I'd be like, "Oh, okay, yeah." But the other thing I was gonna say was there are so many scenarios that you have to kind of trudge through games to figure out the good ones. And I'd much rather there be less scenarios and them all be solid instead of just be like, well, okay, let's set this whole game up. And these can probably be glued, but you have no way of storing them.
Yeah.
At that point.
I mean, if you want to do the whole foam cube business or the foam sections.
Oh yeah, the foam
core. If you want to go
core.
hardcore with it.
Yeah.
That's a little much. If you want to paint and all that other shit.
Oh god, no. These are too tiny.
Yeah.
Which I like the tiny for scaling. Like it makes them feel smaller compared to these massive things. That's neat. I just think in practice it's so bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to set it up. You have to play it. Hope the scenario is balanced and good. Chances are it probably isn't. And then you just mark that one out.
Oh yeah, do they have a mode where it's just like a point buy system essentially?
Probably. There's so many different.
I mean, like you can essentially craft your own army.
Yeah.
And then just go at it from there. Which is how all the other that's how Warhammer works.
Yeah,
it's
that's how
point buy
the dogfighting Star Wars X-wing. That it was based off a certain amount of points that you can spend to build your set. But yeah, I mean, you could do that, which I would imagine most people are doing that with this. But they have a lot of scenarios, and that are some are historically accurate, others aren't, and then you just have to just hope it's good.
Yeah.
So I think at the end of the day, this game is exhausting for me.
Yeah.
And that's that. I mean, you got anything else?
Nope, I don't got anything else.
All right. Your game on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give it?
I don't know. I want to give it. This setup's just such a bear. But I'm like, is there any way to don't? I mean, besides making it smaller, and I understand they want to make it grand and feel big, like you have a big army with a lot of guys.
Yeah. We also didn't mention the fact that it has an RPG element. Not really. You can have quests.
Yeah.
Like they have NPCs you can go talk to, which is cool. You never see that in a skirmish fighting game.
Right.
Like the fact that you can have.
Hey, so how is the bread today?
Right. Yeah. There are buildings. I mean, there wasn't any in this one, but there are buildings that can be destroyed. People can because you have the insides of the building.
Oh, the inlay,
and then you have a building on top of that, and people can sit in there. So that's a cool idea. There's been other kind of skirmish games where it's a war game, but you have heroes that move around and they can finish quests. What was that one called? Rune Wars. That was a pretty good one. But yeah, you had heroes who could help in fighting, but then they could also move on their own and complete quests, and you got points that way.
Yeah.
And then, so that is an element of the game that is very unique. I haven't seen that in a whole lot. But yeah, I would never set this up. I would imagine that since infantry get put on a 3 base, that you could just glue these into a 3 base. But there was another game I had called Battles of Westeros that was it was Game of Thrones, a skirmish Game of Thrones. That one was a fucking monster to set up too, because it had bases that you had to put the minis in. I had to super glue them in, and then they had little banners, and oh man, I got rid of that one pretty quick.
Yeah.
Even though that was a pretty good one, because you had individual heroes that benefited. Fantasy Flight actually released a Song of Ice and Fire skirmish game, and you had the different armies that you could, which probably is solid. I've never played it, but it's kind of a Warhammer thing. Like you have them on like a rectangular base, and they fit all in like one thing.
Oh, yeah, just move them all forward. I don't think it's Warhammer that does that. You might be thinking.
That must have been that, yeah. that I was thinking of, because I know rectangular bases is part of it, so it must be the same.
Yeah, I know a lot of like the ones that use a bunch of small units, like to be real like war scale. You know, to move them out with your giant
that little stick.
board.
Yeah,
yeah, that's.
And you sit and you have to dress the part. You have a monocle. I think we're gonna move this unit if we send the Germans over here. If we send the orcs that way, then let's see what happens. And I rolled blanks. I guess they miss.
I guess they suck.
Stupid.
Execute them.
Artillery strike on that unit. Sir, those are our own forces. They have displeased me. And then like, the people you're playing with are dressed up normal. They're like, who the fuck is this guy?
Christ.
But yeah. Okay, you never gave your...
I'm torn between like I want to say a 6 or 7. I don't know about 7. I'll give it I'm feeling 6. It's like I like the game, and you know, it's a nice condensed war game that doesn't have a lot of the things that I hated about other skirmish games.
Yeah,
I know, because I really hated. I didn't like Hate.
Hate sucks.
I didn't like Hate, and what was that other one?
Hate's board and shit was ugly as sin.
It was weird.
Their minis were
They were just like buy our minis.
Yeah, pretty much.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Those are definitely the best looking like. Just chunk of plastic.
Yeah, they really were. I was like, look at this armored war pig. You can see the chain link.
Yeah, that was
like,
good.
Yeah, that was it. I'm like, man, I might keep this for the minis, and I obviously didn't.
What was the one that we played not too long ago? It had a lot of hexes and different sized units. What was that one? Like I was playing.
God, yeah. Oh man, what was that called?
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about because it was like there were like demons and stuff.
Yeah, and that one's I don't know. It was weird. I couldn't get used to the demons.
It wasn't great.
And then their campaign essentially made the loser like weaken, and the winner got stronger. So if you're already sucking and losing, you keep losing.
Yeah.
And it's like okay, fuck this.
Yeah,
then.
it was not great, but I definitely know. I know what you're talking about, but I cannot remember the name of it though. Yeah, that one wasn't great. The best skirmish game that I have played is Mythic Battles Pantheon, which is, and I'll be able to get that because I backed Mythic Battles Ragnarok, and it's, Pantheon is everything Greek mythology.
Okay.
And you have very little units, and you have a few major, so essentially you have like 3 small units, and then 3 named people. Okay. And I think like a hero somewhere in there. So you have a few gods, and then you can have like Achilles. So you can have Hades, Achilles, and then some troops.
Okay.
And then you can either win by, I think, killing the opponent's god, or you can win by gathering these tokens. And I think you need a majority of the tokens, and there's like 3 out on the board. So you can go grab those and bring them back to your base.
Okay.
And imagine the keywords and stuff that you like about this, the combo, and it's card-based, which is what I also really like.
Yeah.
So how you activate units is based off the cards, so there's a slight element of deck building in there. That is by far the best where I think there's dice. I've only played it like twice, but I think there's dice, but the dice don't feel the determining factor like it does in this one. So that's easily been the best, and there's so much shit for it. And then Ragnarok comes out, and it's Norse mythology, and you can combine them.
Oh, cool.
So you could have Zeus versus Odin.
Okay, did you play that at...
I played that...
Con?
No.
Okay, so it hasn't released yet?
No, Pantheon is all out.
Oh, okay.
Ragnarok is not.
Because I haven't seen it.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
A friend of mine in town, he owns it, and I went over to his house and played it. I might see if he'll let me borrow it, just to have you give it a shot.
Yeah.
But it's a storage hog like this fucking beast. It's insane.
Yeah.
But what you like from this is in that, but it's condensed. You don't have... I mean, you have a board, and then you still have units, but man, is it not annoying to set up. You don't have stupid... Yeah. So that's been the only skirmish game that I'm like, I need to get this and figure out how to store it. So you're setting on a 6?
Yeah, they're about 6.5.
Honestly, that's kind of where I'm at too, like between a 5 and a 6. So I mean, it's average, slightly above average for me. It does a lot of good things. I definitely don't hate it, even though I've been more just like I've just been exhausted talking about it. Like, you can definitely get the really cool theme in it. Even whenever I kept not killing your griffin, you can just imagine them dogfighting in there. Like my cockroaches can't quite nip at your griffin. The cube system is innovative and really unique. Dice are annoying, but yeah, it's just a lot for me. Very little payoff at the end of the day. Like if you were, I mean, the only way for me to play this, which I mean, if someone was like, hey, like if you were like, hey, do you want to come over and game? I'll be like, sure. And then you're like, I'll set up Joan. Like if you did it, if you set it up. If I
set it up, it's all ready to go.
And I'd be like, all right, let's just fucking do it. Yeah. You set up a small scenario that'll only take a couple hours? Sure.
Right, I mean.
Like, then I would play it, and I'd probably have a good time. But other than that, no, I never want to touch it again. So I'll give it a 6. Like, I'm not pissed at it, like some skirmish games where I'm just like, fuck this.
Yeah.
So, all right. You got anything else?
Nope.
Cool. Well, that's our thoughts on Time of Legends, Joan of Arc. Let us know what you think of the game in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.